Hello and welcome to another video and a podcast from Fantasy Football Scout. As we look ahead to Fantasy Premier League Game Week 11, it's team reveal time when myself and Fantasy Football Scout's deputy editor Tom Freeman will be revealing our early thoughts for Game Week 11 and our transfer plans. Today we have a special focus on the best captain with Salah and Haaland in our thoughts. That's especially pertinent for those who don't have one of those in their team. So they probably go for one of them and they might want to justify the decision, or they might want to do something ambitious with their transfers and get them both in. Tom, welcome. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right, thanks, Joe. Yeah, wildcard was done last week, so a bit less to think about now, but still considering one transfer potentially. Yeah. So we'll have a look at that a bit when we have take a look at my team.
So I wildcarded Game Week 8 and Game Week 9 I held it. Game Week 10 I used my 2 free transfers to get Neto and Maddison out for Saka and Adingra. I think I'm marginally down because Neto got something, but he is now injured. So in a way, I'm quite pleased I did that move, got removed Neto, because that would have been a player I'd have had to remove this week anyway. So that was quite good. I had a small red arrow. I'm down to about 200k at the moment, but it's about time. I think I am quite keen to make a transfer, but we'll come to that in a sec when we have a look at our teams and reveal the transfer that I'm sort of eyeing up. But first, let's have a look at the fixtures. So the next 6. So these are the players we sort of should have in mind. Brighton, absolutely top next 6. Everton, Sheffield United, Nottingham Forest, Chelsea, Brentford and Burnley. And then Crystal Palace, another good set of fixtures. Burnley, Everton, Luton, West Ham, Bournemouth. And then Liverpool gets a bit tough for that. And then Nottingham Forest have good fixtures. Aston Villa, West Ham, Brighton, Everton, Fulham, Wolves up for them. Then Wolves, but they're on Neto list, so I'm not sure where their goals are going to come from or whether their assists are going to come from. Sheffield United, Tottenham, Fulham. Do have Arsenal in Game Week 14, then Burnley, Nottingham Forest. Manchester United have a nice little run. Remember them? They were big once. So Fulham, Luton and Everton. And then further down the table, Luton have the absolute pits. They got Liverpool, Manchester United, Crystal Palace, Brentford, Arsenal, Man City in the next 6. That's awful. Chelsea, pretty bad as well for improving sort of Game Week 16. They've got Tottenham, Man City, Newcastle, but then Brighton and Manchester United, then Everton in Game Week 16. And Liverpool, nice set of fixtures. They're a bit lower down this table because they've got Man City in Game Week 13. But nevertheless, they've got Luton away next, then Brentford, Man City Game Week 13, then Fulham, Sheffield United and Crystal Palace. It's a lovely run there. So I look at all of that and I think, Brighton for attackers, Crystal Palace for defenders, Liverpool for defenders and attackers. Man City are worth mentioning. They've got Bournemouth next before they have Chelsea, Liverpool, Tottenham. It's a bit of a tough run. Then they do play Villa and then Luton in Game Week 16. And Chelsea and Luton and Bournemouth look like a bit of an avoid for me. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's a shame there isn't some better performing attackers at those teams near the top of the ticker. We need Eze back for Palace, don't we? Because there's nobody else there you're going to be looking at. Forest, he was back on the bench at the weekend, but I still don't. I mean, Gibbs White is another option there which you could look at. I'm not quite there with him yet. Neto isn't, available for Wolves next week. Man United, nobody's going to really go for Fernandes or Rashford on current form, I don't think. So there isn't loads of options from those teams, which makes me look at Brighton.
Yeah.
I think we both own Adingra. I think Matoma's a great option there as well. I think people who went with João Pedro last week, I think they'll probably get a start this weekend. And then it's the Liverpool and City attacks, isn't it? But I think Palace defence certainly is where I'll be looking. And I've got Gahey. And if you want to plug in a 4.5 defender, which you can play, probably 4 weeks, maybe even 5 weeks out, all the next 5 game weeks, you could probably play him in each week fine. So that would kind of take care of that.
Yeah, I mean, I've got Anderson, and I'll probably play him most of those weeks, if not all of them. Burnley, Everton, Luton, West Ham, Bournemouth. I probably wouldn't play him in the West Ham game because I currently own Bowen. But the rest of them, I mean, especially the promoted sides, Burnley and Luton, and Bournemouth aren't a promoted side, well, they were once, but not last season.
They're as bad as them.
But they're as bad as that. So Bournemouth, Luton and Burnley, that's the time I would be playing Anderson, in your case, Gahey. there. So there's going to be a fixture swing. We're sort of in the midst of fixtures, and the swing hasn't quite happened yet. Sort of game week 16 time, there looks to be a bit of a fixture swing. Game week 14, arguably as well. Brentford play Luton, so Mbomo could be my thoughts then. But as we discussed on the goals imminent video, when Brentford play a 3-5-2, Mbomo does shine. So they've got West Ham, Liverpool, Arsenal. They tend to play that formation when they have tough games. So even now could be Mbomo time.
Yeah, I think there's no problem if you don't want to book a transfer in and you're looking forward to make a midfielder move. Now, I think that Mbomo said a few weeks back that these games could suit him. So, yeah, no problem bringing him in now.
Let's have a look at the captaincy debate. So before we have a look at our teams, for reveal who we've got here, I've done a bit of a comparison between Salah and Haaland. I think they're going to be the main captains. So if you own both, you've got a decision. If you only own one, you've got an easy decision, but you might get a bit of FOMO for not owning the other one, because Haaland was 70% effective ownership, I think, in game week 10, which was wow, because the captaincy was largely on Salah, but it's going to be different. So if you don't own Haaland, this is what you buy into. He's probably going to be about 160% effective ownership. That's going to take up captaincy. But yeah, price wise, there's obviously a big difference. Salah 12.8 is a midfielder. Haaland 14.1. But then XG, Haaland's it's 10.22 is XG over the season, and Salah is 7.41, so you're getting more there. But Salah has got the expected assist potential 2.98, Haaland negligible 0.92. But if you were to add those two up, Salah's only just behind Haaland in terms of expected goal involvement. Both great options. Salah plays Luton, and then Haaland plays Bournemouth at home. Luton away game for Salah. So looking at those stats, I've already seen your team, so I know you're going to captain Haaland. But which are you in any way thinking of captain Salah instead of Haaland?
I'm not actually. I'm not really overthinking this one. I've always had this game week in mind for Haaland captaincy. Nothing that I've seen from Bournemouth recently would sway me on that. Haaland is a different beast at home at the Etihad. Grealish was back at the weekend. I think getting him back and another creator in the team is really going to help him. Salah has more of that all-round threat. You can see from the numbers there, he's taken on that creator role as well as that goal threat. Luton, really bad away. I do think they put up a bit more of a fight at Kenilworth Road from what we've seen.
Yeah,
I've only seen them in 4 games at home, but from what I've seen, they seem to make it a little bit more difficult for their opponents. But yeah, I don't think I wouldn't have a problem if I don't own Haaland. Salah's my captain this week, but because I own both, I'm going to back the home player, especially as well as Man City have got this week off as well. They're not in Carabao Cup action at all, so it'll be a full rest for Haaland.
Yeah. I put some other stats up on the screen here. I'll just read them out for those listening on the podcast version. Luton at home this season are averaging 1.2 expected goals conceded, so just over a goal they're expected to concede each of their home matches this season. But however, Bournemouth away, much, much worse. Their expected goals conceded is 2.60. So they're expected to concede at least 2, maybe 3 goals in all of their away games. Haaland is good. And to put it mild, just put it mildly, that Haaland's good. Was he number 2 in the Ballon d'Or behind Messi?
He was, last night,
and he certainly won the goal scorer award. And he's against this, so it's a no-brainer here. Bournemouth away is twice as bad as Luton at home in terms of defence.
Yeah, and I think they're obviously Bournemouth are trying to implement this new approach and the new manager. They make a few mistakes at the back. They're trying to play out from the back, and I'm not sure they've quite got to grips with that. And City are just going to pounce on that, I think.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I mean that's made my mind up. These sort of captaincy analysis always help make my mind up. I think I did that the other day when I was going to captain Son and then went for Salah, and it was doing this sort of
Yeah.
analysis that helped me looking at the opponents. And in that case, I favoured Salah against the tired Brighton side, the defence.
Son had Sheffield United,
Yeah,
didn't he, at home, and he
E-
blanked, didn't he?
and even though it was, I just thought that Sheffield United would have a go at it, but I felt
Yeah.
Brighton's defence would just be knackered,
Yeah.
which they were.
Good call. Yeah.
So we will go on to your team. So for the benefit of those listening to the podcast version, can you read out your players and say your captaincy plan, which I've already revealed, and also what possible moves you might be making?
Yeah, so I wildcarded last week, so it feels fairly well set up for game week 11. I've got Areola in goal, three defenders, Cash, Gahey, and Simicas. Five midfielders, Salah, Adingra, Saka, Martinelli, and Son. And then Watkins and Haaland up front with Haaland as my captain. And then on the bench, I've got Strakosha, Taylor, Gabriel, and Mubama.
Okay.
I've got one free transfer, obviously, after wildcarding. I've got 0.2 in the bank, so not much wiggle room there to play with. First thought when I see this team was to save a transfer because why bring the players in? It wasn't just for 1 week, they were for fixture periods. The only move which might take my kind of fancy on Friday would potentially be trying to target those two fixtures we just spoke about, which is Man City, Bournemouth, Liverpool, Luton. Potentially moving Martinelli to a midfielder from one of those sides. So that could be Foden if we think he starts. That could be Doku if we think he starts. That could be Jota if we think he starts at Liverpool, which we think he probably does with that awful situation which is happening with Luis Diaz at the moment. So I'm just thinking that I think I want Martinelli for the week after for Burnley. That's the problem. But if I do want to do something a bit more short term, because when you play a wild card, your team is generally well set up for a few weeks. So if I can afford to use those transfers on getting a midfielder out and then maybe playing around with that spot a bit, then I would consider that.
Yeah. No, I think yeah. I mean, I look at the team. It's like rinse repeat all season. Every time I look at your team, I go, I wouldn't make any move. I'd just burn a transfer. And I do similar here. I mean, these are good players. But yeah, if you're looking at a specific weak link, Martinelli without Jesus, and there are so many other options you could bring in, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd be quite happy to leave this team though.
Yeah, I did consider the Jesus factor because obviously I only bought Martinelli last week, but I still think he could do well. Thought he played well first half against Sheffield United, but then there's a lot of rotation in that game, which we didn't foresee, did we? Gabriel, for instance, was dropped and or rotated. Odegaard as well. Martinelli only got 65 minutes, so it was. I think we targeted the right fixture. But unless you're Praz who got on Nketiah, we probably picked the wrong player. No,
I mean, just a couple of things there to remind people of it looks like the Gabriel and Odegaard benchings weren't for tactical reasons. They had just totted up the number of minutes they'd done, and they had played a lot of internationals as well as for Arsenal, and they just were deemed needed a rest. So it looks like both of those will be back. So it's not like Gabriel's been dropped like he was at the beginning of the season. But as for myself, as a Gabriel Game Week 1 owner, I'm just not going near him. I've just been burnt. But I wouldn't read anything too much into his long-term future because of that one benching last week. And the other thing is the reason we're talking about Jota is because Diaz's parents were kidnapped and his mum has been released. And as we know at the moment, his dad is still in captivity with the kidnappers there. And so that means, I mean, he's just in no fit state to play. He will not play. So Jota will most likely be replacing him. I would imagine for at least the next couple of matches, even if there is good news with his family there, Diaz is not going to be in a fit state to play there. Very understandably there. But yeah, no, I agree with that move there. I think that's quite good. You've got world's your oyster almost, isn't it? Doku,
Yeah, well,
Foden.
I guess, yeah, going for the cheaper Adingra and then the more
Yeah,
expensive Martin Elliott maybe gives you a bit more flexibility than if you've got maybe Diaby and Matoma, where you can't quite go up to one of
yeah,
those City Liverpool midfielders. So yeah, I might come to Friday and I might pull the trigger on that one.
yeah, definitely. And also, it's good to keep that slot, that price point, because there's Matoma and
Yeah,
Bomo as well.
yeah, loads of good
You could
midfielders.
go there, so you don't want to sort of go beneath those prices, so you can hop on them at any moment.
Yeah,
Okay, here's my team. It's quite similar because I mean, I game week 8 wildcards and game week 10 wildcards are very similar. There were a few
yeah,
changes. Game week 10 wildcards a bit more Arsenal, and Simicast is probably there.
yeah.
And whereas there's a bit more Spurs probably with the game week 8 wildcards, and that's indicative here. So for the benefit of those listening on the podcast, I've got Areola in goal in a 3-5-2 with Porro against Chelsea, Cash, and Anderson from Crystal Palace playing at the back line. Then I've got Salah's my vice captain, Son, Saka, Bowen. So instead of your Martinelli, I've got Bowen, and then I have got Dingra as well, who I envisage moving on to Palmer. I kind of like that price point. I like Chelsea's fixtures soon, but not yet. And Adingra is a great placeholder there, especially while Brighton's fixtures are good. I've got Watkins up front and Haaland, who is my captain. On my bench, I've got Turner, who I got. Well, he may still play, but I'm not going to play him against Aston Villa at home. Dan Burn, Archer, and Lamptey, Tarek Lamptey. Tarek Lamptey, like a Stupinan, have been seen back in sort of on the sort of back in. They're sort of due back. So when I say back in training, they're not back in full first team training, but they're due back very soon. They do seem quite hopeful that one or both of those will return soon. So the way I look at it here, I've got 0 0.2 in the bank. The two targets I have are Estupinan if he is fit for Porro, because Lamptey will likely deputise for him
Yeah,
on the
so you should
left.
get one of them. Should get one of them each week.
Yeah, but the chances are with Estupinan, if he doesn't start, he'll come on if he is fit. So if he is fit, I would be getting ahead a bit ahead there. And Porro, like with Dan Burn at Arsenal, I don't think I need them for the time being. So Tottenham's fixtures are Chelsea, Wolves, which is good, and then Aston Villa, Man City, West Ham, and Newcastle. I mean, it's not a clean sheet run, that one. And similarly with Newcastle, they got Arsenal, but then they got Bournemouth, but then they got Chelsea, Manchester United, Everton, and Tottenham. Once again, it doesn't scream whole bunch of clean sheets. Some maybe
Yeah,
one or
great.
two, and so I can't see me either wanting to play them that much. So Porro and Burn, I don't mind playing Porro at home to Chelsea this game, but I might be looking to move into a Stupinan at some point. So Simicast,
Yeah, that's good.
for me,
Uh,
Simicast is the catch-up player to catch up with Gaming 10 wildcarders. He's going to play while Robertson's out. Dan Burn to Simicast, and then play Simicast and put Porro on my bench is probably the way I'll go. Porro
yeah,
is first up.
save a bit of money,
Save a bit
get
of
a bit of
money.
money in the bank.
I've got, I think Simicast has gone up to 4.6. I think
Yeah,
Burn is 4.6 in my team. I'm not sure. And I've got 0.2 anyway. Anyway, I can just about afford that. And then Porro is my first sub, I think.
yeah, I think it makes sense. I think that, like you say, I think Spurs and Newcastle's fixtures now. We've been on their defences for a while,
Yeah,
and it's maybe now it's time to start transitioning
yeah,
away to, if you haven't got a Palace defender, absolutely
yeah,
perfect.
yeah,
Or Simicast, who's a bit of a gift, isn't he? Even at
yeah.
4.6 million, given that Liverpool have still got, even after this week, Brentford, Fulham, Sheffield United fixtures, which you can play him in. It's taken a few set pieces. Looks a great option.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that will change that move. So in my head, I've got Burn to Simicast, done. But if De Zerbi comes out and says, Estupinan, been training all week, absolutely magic, I'm going to put him straight in, then that will be hard to resist. But I suspect that won't happen. I suspect it will be
Yeah.
more, he's starting to return, maybe this week, maybe next. I'm not sure. So I've got Porro to Stupinan in mind, and they're both similar price, I think, in my team. So I can do that move. And then future moves, Bowen is West Ham need to improve, and Bowen to either Matoma or Mbomo, not this week, but possibly from next week onwards. I'll be considering that move. The more that goes on, the more I'll be considering that. And Matoma against Sheffield United might cause me palpitations. So
it's a great fixture, isn't it? I mean, Brighton have got this Ajax game 3 days before, but you will go into that deadline having that information about who played what minutes in that one.
So which would obviously sway me to a Stupinan. Stupinan could be fit there, but the problem with the Bowen move is that Bowen plays Nottingham Forest at home that week. Also another good fixture. So I probably wouldn't do that move. But I think
it depends what you see from Bowen, though, doesn't it? In this game again, this weekend as well against Brentford, because West Ham haven't looked good over the past 2 matches. So if they have another game where they lose and don't score, you might be more tempted to make the move then.
So it's just one of these. This is one of those weeks where I just starting to look at players and thinking, "Ooh, will I lose patience with them?" But not yet. But so for me, it's a very boring, cheap defender move. Burn to Simicast.
Oh no, I think it's a good move. It's a good move in your setup, and I can understand why you'd do that. I mean, I'm just looking at your bench there, Joe. I think Archie got dropped at the weekend, isn't he? But I think we're expecting him to. I think we're expecting him to come back in.
Yeah, and I don't mind. He's always going to be on the bench if he. I don't expect more than a couple of points from him anyway, and and there's not many other options I would expect anything more of at 4.5 strike. I think you've got the West Ham guy, haven't you?
Well, I went from Obama just to save 0.2. I think I was kind of thinking, should I go up to should I use that money and go up to Archer? But I've got a bit of depth anyway. He really is the 15th man, Obama. So I felt like that 0.2 might come in handy.
They're all much of a muchness, so you're not going to get a lot of points out of these guys.
Yeah, but then we just did an article on Scout about the Xmas schedule and what to expect. And there's quite a few kind of tricky game weeks, midweek rounds coming up where we're not going to get press conferences from all the teams. We've got Man City and Brentford blanking soon. So it's just something to keep in mind, those benches. I called upon mine at the weekend when Gabriel didn't play, and I think that we might be using them a bit more in the coming weeks. So that is maybe something to think about in some setups, trying to get 14 players who are at least going to get minutes. You might be all right with that last slot.
Yeah.
But it's just we're coming into that period, aren't we? That we know well.
Yeah,
fixture congestion, rotation. No.
Yeah, that's a good good advice, and also we're talking about investing in Brighton for Sheffield United in game week 12. Rotation.
Well, that's what you have to buy the ticket, don't you?
Yeah,
right.
So that's what I'm buying to.
Yeah, there's a lot of upside with that specific fixture. So I get why people would do it. I'm just saying that if you have got maybe 2 players who aren't playing any minutes on your bench, you might want to look at that now or in the next week or 2.
That's really good advice. And there's plenty of cheap options, as we've spoken about. You've got the Palace guys, very good, handy defenders on the bench. And Simicast for Liverpool is a bit of a gift.
Yeah, and even if we want to go cheap, Branthwaite was superb for Everton at the weekend, and players like that who are probably going to keep their places, play 90 minutes, and that's all you want, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Okay. Good luck everyone watching and listening with the game week. Good luck, Tom. Good luck to myself as well. And also do remember to press that like button. And do remember to subscribe if you're not subscribing in it already to keep up to date with all our latest videos and podcasts all week. Thanks a lot for your time. See you next week.
Thanks, Joe.